A cold, winter morning. The sun hasn't fully risen yet, and the streets of Marietta, Ohio, are quiet. Old, worn buildings line the main street, and a few small shops seem to cling to another era. This quiet Midwestern town doesn't see many tourists. Its slow pace contrasts sharply with big city life. The air is freezing, and a new snow is already turning to slush. Near the muddy roadside sits a thin, pale-faced 13-year-old girl. Her jacket looks far too small to shield her from the brutal cold. As she does every morning, she sets out a few packs of homemade cookies on a tiny wooden table. She almost never speaks. There's a sense of silent desperation on her face. A short distance away, other children around her age hurry off to school, chattering happily. But she can't join them. Her life turned upside down when she lost her parents in an accident, leaving her under the care of an elderly aunt who can barely make ends meet. So every morning she just watches from afar, sighing quietly. Late in the morning, the girl's eyes stung from the icy wind, and her fingers felt stiff. She forced a polite smile at each passerby, softly saying, "Homemade cookies. Please help if you can." But no one seemed to slow down. She was on the verge of packing up, disappointment pressing on her small shoulders, when a sleek black SUV curved around the corner. It looked out of place among the older, weather-worn vehicles of Marietta. The SUV halted directly in front of her stand. The door opened, and out stepped Julia Roberts, the legendary Hollywood actress, wrapped in a modest wool coat and a casual beanie. At first, the girl couldn't quite recognize her. She only sensed a quiet grace about this newcomer. Julia's breath hung in the cold air as she surveyed the table of cookies and the timid figure standing behind them. Julia Roberts approached with a warm smile. "Hi there," she said gently. "Are you selling these cookies yourself?" The girl nodded, voice shaking with both the cold and a shy sense of awe. "Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to save up so I can go back to school. But it's tough." Julia glanced at the handwritten sign and the meager price per cookie. The actress tasted one. Fresh, soft, surprisingly delicious. Without a word, she pulled out a sum of money far exceeding the total and handed it to the girl. The child's eyes went wide as she stammered, That's too much." But Julia just smiled. "Consider it an investment in your future. Don't give up, okay?" With that, she tucked the bills into the girl's hand, offered a quick but encouraging nod, and slipped back into the SUV. Before the girl could muster a proper thank you, the vehicle disappeared down the quiet street, leaving her clutching what felt like a small fortune. That same afternoon, the sleek black SUV pulled into a lonely gas station on the outskirts of town. Julia Roberts, adjusting her beanie against the biting wind, stepped out to make a discreet phone call. She spoke softly, so passers-by wouldn't overhear. "I'm looking for the principal of a private school in Marietta." "Yes, I prefer to stay anonymous," she continued, her breath forming small clouds in the frosty air. "I'd like to cover all expenses for a bright young girl. Tuition, books, uniforms, whatever she needs." She emphasized that her name shouldn't be disclosed, then ended the call with a determined nod. Sometimes she thought it just took one supportive gesture to light the path for someone who felt trapped in the dark. A week passed in a blur of cold mornings and slow cookie sales. One afternoon, the girl's elderly aunt opened the creaking front door to find a mail carrier holding an official-looking envelope. The school emblem on the corner was unmistakable. The aunt's heart raced as they tore it open and discovered a scholarship offer. A generous benefactor had provided full tuition. Tears welled in the girl's eyes. She could finally return to class, something she had feared might never happen again. Her aunt, a short woman with graying hair pinned in a messy bun, pressed trembling hands to her cheeks, whispering how she had prayed for such a miracle. The identity of this mysterious donor lingered like a pleasant riddle, But the girl felt pure joy, imagining a new future she'd almost given up on. Orientation day arrived with a fresh layer of snow. Nervous but excited, the girl wore a neatly pressed school uniform, a stark contrast to the oversized jacket she used to huddle in each morning. The school corridors buzzed with chatter. Other students discussed classes, extracurriculars, and dorm rules. A large auditorium had been set for a welcome assembly, where new students were encouraged to share what brought them to this institution. Standing among polished seats and bright stage lights, the girl's hands shook around the microphone. In a voice just above a whisper, she confessed, "I honestly didn't think I'd ever afford to go to school again. But someone out there believed in me enough to pay for everything." She swallowed hard, remembering the sidewalk, the cookies, and that brief but unforgettable encounter with a kind stranger. The auditorium doors swung open and a hush fell over the crowd. Julia Roberts, no longer worrying about staying undercover, stepped in. Whispers of surprise rippled through the students. A few recognized her instantly, gasping, "Is that really Julia Roberts?" The girl on stage nearly dropped the microphone as she realized who had walked into the hall. Julia approached, meeting the astonished gaze of teachers, administrators, and classmates. Then she turned her attention to the speechless young student. "I'm glad I get to see you properly this time," Julia said, her voice warm. "You have no idea how much your persistence inspired me." Applause erupted. The girl, eyes filling with tears, managed a shaky, "Thank you. I can't believe this." Julia placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did most of the work on your own. I just helped a little. Keep following your dream. Promise me you won't give up." Teachers clapped. Students murmured in awe, and the principal cleared his throat, introducing Julia Roberts to the entire assembly. Several phones appeared, recording the surreal moment. The girl's elderly aunt, standing off to the side, wiped away tears. Approaching Julia, she whispered, "We can't thank you enough. This changes both our lives." Julia smiled, lowering her voice so only they could hear. "When life deals you hardships, sometimes you just need to know someone believes in you." She already had the courage. She just needed a tiny boost. With that, Julia gave the girl a final embrace, reminding her to study hard, find her passion, and remember that small acts of kindness can ripple across countless lives. The hall thundered with applause as Julia slipped out of the auditorium, leaving behind a message of hope. The girl stared after her, still clutching the microphone. In that single, shining moment, the future felt bright and limitless. Years later, she would look back and realize that it all began with a small table of homemade cookies, an unexpected act of generosity, and the faith of one very famous stranger named Julia Roberts. Thank you for watching this longer story featuring Julia Roberts' heartfelt act of kindness. We hope it reminded you how a single gesture can spark a whole new future. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Take care, stay inspired, and remember, sometimes all it takes is one moment of kindness to change a life forever.